Somebody give God a great big hand clap of praise for all of God's blessings, all of God's grace, all of God's miracles, all that God has done for us. We thank God for being who he is and allowing us to be found in the house of prayer. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, don't stop dreaming. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, don't stop dreaming. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, don't stop dreaming. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, stay positive in negative places. Stay positive in negative places. Look at somebody like you love them and say, stay positive in negative places. If they didn't want to receive it, find you somebody else. Look at them like you love them. I don't want them to get mad at you. Say, stay positive in negative places. Somebody take out your mirror, look at your mirror, say self. Self say, Stay positive in negative places. Somebody put your hands together, give God some praise. Oh, we're going to do this little teaching lesson today. I'm going to let y'all out early. I know y'all got to go home and get your Super Bowl parties ready. You got to go get your cheese dip ready and your wings ready and your soda waters ready. Your soda waters ready. Your soda waters ready. Or water. No, regular water. Get your Cokes ready, your Coca-Cola and your Coke Zeros and, all of that. And water, amen? Look at your neighbor and say, that's all I'm going to have in my cooler. I see y'all got quiet right there. We are dreamers. We are dreamers. Nobody understands your dream like you understand your dream because nobody gave you your dream but God. So when you look for validation from people, you're going to find frustration rather than validation. Because nobody who did not create you knows your possibilities. God sees us in ways that nobody, not even ourselves, can see us. He believes things about us that we oftentimes don't believe about ourselves. Why? Because God made us who we are. We sing a song that says, God made me. God made me who I am. God made us who we are. God gave us what we have. God will take us where we are going. And what God has for you, sees for you, wants for you, thinks about you is bigger than you. And what God does is oftentimes God gives you a glimpse of what you can be before you even start beginning to be it. He gives you dreams. He gives you aspirations. He gives you imagination. He gives you something in your heart that says, I can do it. Something in your heart, Sister Williams, that says, I'm better than that. Something in your heart that says, I can overcome that. He gives you dreams. And what God shows you about you is always bigger and is always better than what you see in yourself. Don't you know that God doesn't doubt you, you doubt you? Look at somebody and say, God doesn't doubt you, you doubt you. God doesn't stop you, you stop you. God gives us dreams. God gave Joseph dreams. And sometimes when we get dreams, when we have aspirations, when we get excited about what God is going to do in our lives, we tell people who we think should be excited with us and for us. And we find out that sometimes the people that you thought should hold you up are the very people that pull you down. The people that you thought should encourage you are the very people who discourage you. The people that you want to be by your side are oftentimes the people who stab you in your back. Joseph probably wouldn't have hurt so bad, Reverend Daniels, if it wasn't his brothers who did him wrong. He probably wouldn't have cried so much, Sister West, if it wasn't his brothers who sold him out. He probably wouldn't have had so many issues had it not been his brothers that threw him in the pit. But even when your brothers ain't on your side, even when the people who should hold you up put you down, even when the people who should pat you on the back stab you in the back, even when the people who should be speaking life into you are speaking death into you, God is still able. I wish I had somebody who could testify. God is still able to bring you through. God is still able to develop and deliver in you what he put in you, despite what everybody's trying to take out of you. So Joseph, we've been walking with him in this dream journey. Look at your neighbor and say, I'm on a dream journey. I'm believing what God said about me. Look at somebody and tell them, I'm believing what God said about me. I'm just crazy enough to believe what God says about me. That's why I got a smile on my face this morning, because I'm believing what God says about me. That's why I'm shaking my head, nodding yes, because I'm believing what God says. Devil, you messed up when you let me find out what God says about me, because I was spending my time twiddling my thumbs, spinning my wheels, trying to figure out what you said about me. And then the Lord told me what you said about me really don't matter what's going to happen to me as long as I can believe what he said. Give somebody a high five and tell them, I'm believing what God said about. Devil, you should have took me out a long time ago. It's too late now. It's too late now, player. You can't take me out. It's too late now. You can't break me down. It's too late now. Somebody holler, it's too late now. You mess around and let me hook up with the master. And I know I'm going to be all right. Joseph has been taking this journey, y'all, and we've seen Joseph in a whole lot of places. We've seen him in the pit. We've seen him with the Ishmaelites. We've seen him in Potiphar's house, doing good in Potiphar's house. Doing good in Potiphar's house. Had everything he wanted in Potiphar's house. He was the man, I'm the man, I'm the man, I'm the man in Potiphar's house. He was doing great in Potiphar's house, but the Lord had to make him uncomfortable because Potiphar's house was a location, not a destination. And I don't know, somebody in here, the Lord has made you uncomfortable in a place that you thought was meant for you to stay. And the Lord is letting you know it wasn't meant for you to stay there. It was only meant for you to go through there so you can learn what you needed to learn to get to where God is calling you to be. Tell your neighbor, I don't understand why he wouldn't let me stay there. Was enjoying it there. We was eating good and yeah, getting ready for the Super Bowl party and everything. But y'all know the story. I'm not even gonna go back, huh? So Potiphar, Joseph ends up in jail. Potiphar throws Joseph in jail. The Bible says that when Joseph got thrown in jail, that he found favor with the warden. And the warden put him over everything and everybody in the prison. Everybody else got lights out. Joseph still got his lights on. Put him over everything in the prison. Now we're gonna go to chapter 41 today, but when you get home, read chapter 40, because it's going to give you a prelude to what's happening in chapter 41. When you read chapter 40, you'll find that Joseph ends up in jail with the chief cupbearer and the chief baker. The chief cupbearer and the chief baker both have dreams that they could not understand what the dream was about, right? So they told Joseph what happened in the dream. Joseph says, can't nobody interpret the Lord, can't nobody interpret dreams but God, but this is what your dream means. He said, chief cupbearer, I got good news for you. 3 days, you'll be restored to your position. And when you read it, pay attention to verse 14. Because he says now, when you get restored to your position, remember me. And do me a favor when things go well for you. Mention me to the Pharaoh, so he might let me out of this place. For I was kidnapped from my own homeland, thrown in the land of the Hebrews, and now I'm here in prison, but I don't deserve to be here. So just remember me. The good that I did for you, please remember me when you can do some good for me. Do good to people when they can't do good to you. Because God has a habit of taking folk who couldn't bless you right then, they can bless you later. But if you mistreat somebody when you're up, don't look for them to help you when you're down. I don't know who that was for, but that was for somebody. Treat people right no matter what state they are in, because you don't know when their state is going to change. Right now, we're in the same situation. And you really can't do nothing for me because you're no better than I am. But in 3 days, you're going to be restored. And when you get restored, do me a favor. Remember me. Remember me. Anybody ever had anybody do something good for you and they didn't ask for nothing in return, didn't want nothing in return, and wasn't expecting anything in return, but life had a way of putting you in a position to help that somebody later on that helped you, and you found yourself running saying, what can I do to help you? Because I remember a time when you helped me. I promise you, if you treat people right on the way up, those same people will help you on your way down. He says, please. Remember me. Now, Mr. Chief Baker, I don't know how to tell you this. It ain't looking too good for you, player. In 3 days, Pharaoh gonna kill you. Put your head on the stake, and them birds that you was thinking about, them birds gonna come and eat. Pharaoh's birthday came 3 days later, and he had a banquet. At the banquet, he restored the chief cupbearer, and he killed the chief baker, just like Joseph said. Verse 1 of verse 41 says, 2 full years later. Two years later, the scene has shifted. 2 years later, Joseph pops up in chapter 41, 2 years later, still in prison. Deacon Edmonds said they keep you a while. 2 years later, he's in prison. And that leads us to where we are today. Our thesis statement is, next, everything that you have gone through in life has prepared you to become the person that God has created you to be. Your possibilities, your power, and your purpose have been given to you by God's power in the presence of God's promises. While you are on your way to your destination, you may find yourself seemingly locked in prison. The enemy tries to use the prisons of our lives to make us negative. For he knows that if he can keep us negative, he can make us unproductive. The believer must always remember that God's ways are not our ways and his thoughts are not our thoughts. We must remain positive in every situation, trusting and believing all things are working together for our good. Look at somebody and say, stay positive in negative places. All right, so here we go. Let's go to Genesis chapter 41, verse number 9. It says, finally the king's chief cupbearer spoke up. Today I have been reminded of my failure. Some time ago you were angry with the chief baker and me, and you imprisoned us in the palace of the captain of the guard. One night the chief baker and I each had a dream. And each dream had its own meaning. That was a young Hebrew man with us in the prison who was a slave of the captain of the guard. We told him our dream, and he told us what each of our dreams meant. And everything happened just as he predicted. I was restored to my position as the chief cupbearer, and the chief baker was executed and impaled on a pole. 2 years later, the chief cupbearer finally remembers Joseph. 2 years later, Joseph is still in this negative place, believing on a dream that God had given him years ago. Next, you and I have to remember that it's just a matter of time. Whatever, Sister Vernon, God's going to do with us, for us, and through us is just a matter of time. And while we're waiting, we should be worshiping, not worrying. We should be praising, not complaining. We should be saying thank you, lifting our hands and believing what God has given us. Watch this. It's easy to believe God when you first start the process, because you don't know how long the process is going to take. You don't know what you're going to have to go through to get to that place that God has promised you. See, when you start thinking about going to college, you think about graduation before you even take one class. I got to Fisk in 1993. And in 1993, they welcomed us and they said, congratulations and welcome, class of 97. When we marched on campus, they said, welcome, class of 97. So automatically, we're thinking about graduation before we even took a class. Some of us, 97, turned into 98, 99, 2000 class of never weary. Never weary. Why? Because when God gives you your dream, God will show you the conclusion at the beginning, but he doesn't show you what's in the middle. Because there's some heartbreak in the middle. There's some frustration in the middle. There's some tears in the middle. You know how it is when your child graduates from school. You start thinking back and you start saying, Lord, I remember the day that he was born, and I thank God for today because I never thought he was going to make it. Why? Because the middle was hell. You had some days in the middle where you said, who in the world does this child even belong to? You had some days in the middle where you were proud. You had some days in the middle where you were angry. You had some days in the middle where you couldn't wait for tomorrow. You had some days in the middle where you wanted to go to sleep and not get out to bed. Look at your neighbor and say it's all part of the process. And see, a lot of the people who are not too thrilled with where we are in our building process has to understand that I know you're looking at the end, but what you got to understand is before we get to the end, we got to go through the process. And the process takes some time. God told Joseph, you're going to be everything that I say you're going to be, but he did not tell him when. Two years later. Next, dreams take time to develop. Sister Peggy, God can't give you something that you ain't developed to take. Look at your neighbor and say, you ain't ready for it yet. Look at yourself and say, you ain't ready for it yet. It takes some time to go through the process. You're going to have some ups, and you're also going to have some downs. But let me tell you something. You learn more in the downs than you do in the ups. Wow! The up is for delightment. The down is for development. I don't know who I'm talking to, but somebody should have just took off running around the building right there. The mountaintop is to thank you, but the mountain valley is to teach you. Oh, somebody ought to just give God some praise, because what you learned, you didn't learn on the mountaintop. You learned it down in the valley. That's why you know you can be all right now. Because you done already been in the valley. Dreams take time to develop. Next, you must go through the process to make it to the promise. He was learning some valuable lessons in the lockup that he couldn't learn in Potiphar's house. Pay attention to your lesson in the process, because next, it's not if you will go through, but how will you go through? This is my question for those in the valley. It's not if you're going to go through. The question is, how are you going to go through it? Are you going to go through it mad, mean, scared, frustrated, angry? Are you going to go through it with your eyes open, with your heart open, telling the Lord, Lord, I trust you even when I can't trace you. I believe you even when I don't understand you. I'll walk with you even when I don't know where I'm going. I'm waking up every day in this prison saying this is the day that the Lord has made, and I will rejoice and be glad. And tell your neighbor, since I got to go through it, I may as well go through it with a smile on my face and joy in my heart. Since I got to go through it, devil, I ain't going to let you lead me. I'm going to let the Lord lead me. Wherever he leads me, I will follow. That's what I've made up in my mind. I got to go through it. I may as well take his hand, Tish, and say, precious Lord, take my hand. Lead me on. Let me stand. It's not if you got to go through it. You got to go through it. The question is, how are you going to go through it? I've decided to be positive in the negative places. Gonna let my positivity change my place. I'm not gonna let my place change my positivity. Because if God put me here, God can bring me out. If it was his plan, if he give me a promise, I'm gonna stay patient and wait on the Lord. Wait, I say, on the Lord. Next, many times, Calvary, we miss the progress because we're bitter with the process. How many of you never made it to your blessing because you got tired of the process? You got tired of going through it and you quit before you came out of it. But if you're not too mean, just slap your neighbor a little quick high five and say, neighbor, don't get bitter with the process because you will get the progress. You will come through it if you just keep on going. Look at somebody, tell them keep on going. Don't give up. Don't throw in the towel. Don't just sit there counting the months saying, I've been in here 2 years. And the cupbearer, I told him not to forget about me. And he done forgot all about me and all I am. I've been here all by myself. I ain't got no friends. Don't nobody call me. Nobody Facebook me. Nobody text me. I even made me an Instagram. Nobody even called me on Instagram. I don't know what I'm going to do. You going to trust in God. You're going to trust in God. 2 years later, he's still in jail. But the jail didn't change his dream. Because while you're trying to figure it out, God has already worked it out. While you in the jail, God done put the cupbearer in the presence of the king. And everybody don't get to be in the presence of the king. It wasn't just a cupbearer, it was the chief cupbearer. He was the head cupbearer. He bared the cups for people that nobody else could bear the cups for. Oh, he had the monogram cups. He had the gold chalice cups. He had the cups with jewelry and diamonds and all kind of treasures. He had the cup that you had to put white gloves on if you wanted to handle it because you couldn't leave your fingerprints. He had the right cup. You had to have the right cupbearer to bring the right cup to the right Pharaoh so the right Pharaoh could move you from where you are to where God had created you to be. While you were trying to figure it out, God had already worked it out. King, I'm sorry. I forgot. I know you having dreams and can't nobody interpret your dream. Please forgive me. But there's a fella that I shared a cell with down in your jail. Been there for 2 long years. But me and the former chief baker had some dreams, and we were discouraged about what our dreams meant. But we told him what happened in the dream, and he told us what was going to happen. And everything that he said came true. Verse 14, 15, 16. Next, Pharaoh sent for Joseph at once. He'd been locked up for 2 years, but at once showed up. You ain't got that. You'll get it when you get home. What you've been going through for a while. But I got a feeling at once it's about to show up. What you've been dealing with it for a little while now. But you haven't given up, you haven't thrown in the towel, you kept on believing. I dare you to lift your hands and tell God thank you for your at once. Because at once is on the way. At once it's about to come through your door. At once it's about to lift you up. At once it's about to turn you around. At once it's about to dry your tears. Somebody ought to give God some praise for your at once. Tell your neighbor, I'm getting ready for at once. I'm getting ready for at once. I'm getting ready for at once. At once. He was quickly brought from the prison. After he shaved, I'm a Montgomery and showered, and shouted, changed his clothes. He went and stood before Pharaoh. All the way up to this point, he was dealing with people that Pharaoh dealt with. You ain't got it yet. All the way up to this point, he couldn't talk to Pharaoh. He had to talk to Pharaoh's people. All the way up to this point, he always had to deal with the middleman. But God says you can come to me face to face. This time the Lord moves the middleman and lets him stand in front of Pharaoh for himself. I don't know who I'm talking to, but somebody in here, you ought to give God some praise because he getting ready to move all those middlemen out your way so you can meet him face to face and God can bless you indeed. Pharaoh said to Joseph, Joseph, I had a dream last night. No one here can tell me what it means, but I have heard that when you hear about a dream, you can interpret it. Look at Joseph. I love Joseph. Joseph says, it is beyond my power to do this, but God can tell you what it means and set you at ease. Next, somebody holler, be ready. 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 Y'all ain't hollering it yet. Somebody holler, be ready. Somebody holler, be ready. Because next, when God starts moving you, it's going to happen quickly. When God starts moving you, it's going to happen quickly. You've been waiting for some folk to call you about some jobs. Guess what? Not only are you going to get one call, you're going to get 2, 3, 4, 5 calls. You're going to have an opportunity to decide which one you want to go to. Give your neighbor a high five and tell him, be ready. Because when God starts moving, he moves quickly. He moves quickly. He moves. The Bible says he comes like a thief in the night. He moves quickly. At the drop of a dime, in the twinkling of an eye, he moves quick. I got some people in here that can testify when God moved for you, he moved quickly. Next, you don't have time to get ready. You got to be ready. Because if you be ready, you ain't got to get ready. So look at somebody say, stay ready. Stay ready. You can't wait till the bus pull up to start getting dressed. You got to be at the bus stop, or the bus driver gonna keep on moving. I don't know who I'm talking to, but somebody here, the Lord is telling you, get ready. And when you get ready, stay ready, because he ain't going to have time to stop and wait on you to put your shoes on and tie your tie and make sure your shirt is not wrinkled. You got to iron, you better iron the night before. Look at somebody and tell them, you got to be ready. You got to be ready. You got to be ready. The Bible said he had to shave, change his clothes. Why? Because next, you only have one chance to make a first impression. He said, if I'm going to go talk to the king, I'm going to look the part, because I want the king to see me and see I'm somebody. Can't go in there looking any kind of way. Can't go in there with my dapper down. Can't go in there mad because I've been in here the last 2 years. Can't go in there frustrated because of what my brothers did to me. Can't go in there frustrated because of what Miss Potiphar did to me. See, some of you can't even get your audience before the Lord, because when he gets you before him, you start talking about what happened back then. And God said, I know what happened back then. I'm the one that brought you from then. I don't need you to retort what happened then. I don't need you to reminisce what happened then. I want to know what you're going to do now. I want to know where you're going now. I want to know if you see a blessing down the road. Stop talking about the curses behind you and get ready for the blessings that's in front of you. I wish I had about 15 people that would give God a Holy Ghost praise, because you know when God moves, he moves quickly. Tell your neighbor, I ain't got but one time to make a first impression. And if the Lord gonna let me be in his presence, I'm gonna make sure that I'm right. Because if you want the part, got to look the part. Joseph said, I can't let what I've been through show up where I am. I don't look like what I've been through, but I've been through some hard times. But I ain't got to tell the Lord that, because the Lord already knows. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bless him, and I'm going to tell him thank you, and I'm going to tell him hallelujah for everything that you've done for me. I'm going to tell him bless you. Verse 15 says, then Pharaoh said to Joseph, I had a dream last night, and no one here can tell me what it means. But I have heard that when you hear about a dream, you can interpret it. Next, when you get there, your favor will already be there. You don't have to tell Pharaoh what you can do, because Pharaoh already knows. You don't have to convince him that the Lord has his hand on you, because he already knows. All you got to do is show up, and the favor of the Lord will show up with you. Pharaoh said, I don't have to ask you if you can do what I need you to do, because I've already heard that you've got the ability to do what I need to be done. So I'm going to tell you, you already got the job. All I needed you to do was show up. Give your neighbor a high five and tell him I already got it. All I got to do is show up, because my favor that God has on my life is already in my tomorrow. All I got to do is show up tomorrow for what God has promised me on the day. I wish I had about 10 people that know God's got favor on your life, that would just give God a hand clap clap of praise for the favor he has on your life and the fact that you ain't got to show up. You ain't got to do anything but show up. And when you show up, God will pick you up. God will bring you up, and God will bring you out. Do I have a witness here that don't mind testifying? I was down, but God picked me up. I was out, but God brought me in. I was confused, but God gave me understanding. And now I'm blessed. And I am wondrously blessed. And I love Joseph. He says in verse 16, but it is beyond my power to do this. Joseph replied, but God can tell you what it means and set you at ease. When you get there, next, I don't even know if I made this a point. When you get there, remember who brought you there. Oh, somebody ought to give God a hand clap of praise. When you get there, remember who brought you there. When he opens doors, remember who opened those doors. But right now, before you make it to the positive place, stay positive in a negative situation. Tell the devil, you won't make me change my mind. You won't make me give up. You won't make me throw in the towel. You will not make me quit. I don't care how many interviews I got to go to. I'm going in there with all 24 of my teeth showing. Yeah, I'm going there looking good, feeling good, telling them why I'm going to be an asset to their company, why they going to be blessed to have me there, because I know wherever I show up, the blessings of the Lord shows up where I don't know who I'm talking to, but there's somebody in here, you've been dreaming, you've been hoping, and everybody's been telling you no. Well, the Lord sent me here today to tell you yes. Somebody holler yes. Somebody holler yes. Somebody holler yes. Somebody holler, I'm a winner and I am not a loser. Yes. Stay positive. In negative places, and your positivity will move you from your negative place to your next place, which is a productive place. Look at somebody and tell them where I'm at right now. It's a location. It's not destination. I'm on my way to great things. I'm on my way to big things. I'm on my way to being everything that God said I could be. I'm on my way, and no devil in hell can stop me from having what God promised me I would have. Take the next 2 minutes, find you 3 people, shake their hands and tell them stay positive in negative places. Come on, Calvary, find your 3 friends, shake their hands. You're going to have to get up out your seats. Find your 3 friends, shake their hands, and tell them be positive in negative places. Get up, walk around. Find somebody, tell them be positive in negative places. Tell them I see your future, and you look better. You look better. I see the blessings of God on your life. It looks like you're about to come out. It looks like you're about to be delivered. It looks like things are about to turn around. Don't stop dreaming. Somebody, I hear you, but I'm too old. No, you ain't. No, you're not. As long as you got air in your body, a beat in your heart, God can do it even with you. Somebody, I hear you. I used to be strung out. All of us had issues. And you're no longer who you used to be. You're a new creature. Old things are passed away. All things become brand new. How many people really, and we finna go. I know y'all gotta go put your wangs on. We finna go. How many people really believe this? And don't should yourself. When I say should yourself, don't say what you should say. Say what's true. How many people really believe that when you ask God for forgiveness, God truly forgives you? All right, put your hands down. How many of you same people, even though you know God forgives you, have a problem with forgiving yourself? So here's the quandary. Here's the question that I have for you. If you're not going to forgive yourself, why ask God to forgive you? Because your inability, my inability to see ourselves as God sees us is why we live lives of less than and not enough. It's not because of God. It's because of us. Everything that you need to do what God purposed you to do, God has given it to you. Now, just do it. I love it when you're quiet because that means you're thinking and you're listening and it's resonating in your mind. Every Sunday ain't about a shouting Sunday, y'all. Because some of us come in here and we shout in hell and we leave out of here in hell. I'm coming that the Son may set you free, because whom the Son sets free is free indeed. You have to walk out of here victorious and not a victim. The devil wants you to be a victim. God says you are victorious. The devil messed up with me when he let me hear from God what God can do with me. And that doesn't mean that I'm perfect, because God can hit a straight lick with a crooked stick. Read your Bible. God used some messed up folk to do some great things. That's why you can't do it, because the devil keeps reminding you of who you used to be. And all you got to do is open your book and you can see that God used some strange characters to do some great things. I want all the winners in the building to give God a 10-second hand clap of praise. All the people that's on your way to your dream destination, give God a hand clap of praise. Bless God in this place today. Before we leave, I don't want you shouting for the Super Bowl louder than you shouting for the Lord. Somebody tell God, thank you. I'm done.